workshop called Love Yourself, Protect Yourself. No one's going to love you like you. And so as I talk to my youth and my younger generation, I realize that this is a generation that's wiser and smarter, yet dumber. And so I felt the need to go out in the communities and talk about this. And of course, I needed to get educated myself, so I thank African Advocates Against AIDS for giving me the information that I can use into poetry and go out. There's a young lady on here, and her name is LaToya. I met her sister a few years ago, and LaToya her sister Kim informed me that when she seen me on a commercial doing an HIV form, she came to me and she said, my sister passed away of AIDS. So at the time, I was like, wait a minute, because we have these stereotypes of how we get this disease, or, and I knew she wasn't, I knew she was very, pretty young. So I asked her what happened. She said her sister was 16 years old, walking home from the store, met a drop-dead gorgeous, literally drop-dead gorgeous man who knew he was HIV positive. Now they lived somewhere up near ECU, Greenville. He used to often go on the college campus and pick up young ladies the same way he picked up her. She got involved with him. She got pregnant within months. She took a test. She was HIV positive. Her child was not. And she died 2 years later. This was her cap and gown picture. She died her senior year in high school. So that got me to open up my eyes as a reality. Because I know the only reason that I and so many others stand before you HIV-free is because somebody was praying for us. There was something stronger than us. But see, now that we know better. I want to share with you one more story before I go into my spoken word. And it's this obituary. This is my cousin, Daniel. Daniel was born HIV positive. It was given to him through his mother and father. Now, I live in a small little town near Wilmington, North Carolina, so we hadn't heard of AIDS. It was a white man, or gay white man's disease to us. So when it hit home, it hit with a bang. It made everybody scared, everybody nervous, because people knew that they had relationships with Daniel's mother. And some of the women knew that they had relationships with Daniel's father. Both of them were HIV positive, and they gave birth to Daniel. Now, the funny thing about this story was that it taught a whole community to grow up and grow up fast. Because when he was 1 or 2 and 3 and he got sick, we were nervous. Because when he entered kindergarten, no teacher wanted to be his teacher. None of the parents wanted their kids to be in class with him. So all his life, he was taught, you're going to die. No one took the time to tell him that he could live. So as far as the adults, we were the ignorant ones. Because the kids loved him, they played with him, they treated him like any other child would treat a child. It was the adults that shunned him. And he remembered the ones that did not treat him right. He remembered the ones who were so negative towards him. I remember one day at a cookout, we had these plastic cups around, and the kids were drinking. And so he put his cup down, and everybody got nervous. And everybody, who's coming here? Go on away. It was the babies who said, if you was at a restaurant, you don't know what cups you got. So what's the big deal? Just throw them away. It was the children that taught us that. Well, Daniel went on to fight this disease for all his life because he had to let out of school 1 year because he had to spend a year basically in Chapel Hill. Well, Daniel got so sick, he was in a wheelchair, he had the oxygen tank, but he had his spirit. He loved wrestling, he loved going to the games, he loved sports. And his friends, his classmates that he's had since he was little would put him in the car, put him in the wheelchair, wheel him to the games, and he would be right there, rooting them on. Well, Daniel got sick of fighting this disease. He said to himself, he told the pastors, he told everybody, I'm tired. I just want to go home. Because I got to ask God some questions. And we was like, Daniel, you're doing fine. Because actually he wasn't with his cane. He wasn't in the wheelchair. He said, all I want to do is pray. That's it. And I remember Make-A-Wish Foundation came to offer him, whatever you want. So we were like, Daniel, go for the gusto. Go ask them to let you, go to Disney World or somewhere. And he said, nah, I want to go to Nebraska. Yeah. It was only an hour away. I was like, yeah, let me go for it. He said, no, that's not important. See, when you've been fighting a disease like this all your life, certain things just ain't important. Materialistic things wasn't important. His spirituality wasn't important. Because Daniel made sure he was at church, and he made sure he was shouting up and down those aisles. Well, Daniel said he wanted to graduate high school. He said he did not want to go across that stage in a wheelchair or a walker. So it came to time for him to graduate. It was on June 6th or 8th, I'm not sure of the date. It was time for him to graduate. When they called out Daniel Robertson, Daniel walked across that stage, he pimped, he spun around, he had on this white suit. When we stood up and we clapped, it took them for 5 minutes to sit down. The principals, the teachers, the parents, everybody just cheered him on because they knew how important this graduate was to him. Daniel was better. They had offered him a house in Chapel Hill for him to pursue on, and he said, no, I'm tired. It was like, what are you talking about? He said, no, God granted me my wish, and I'm ready to go home. Now, we knew physically he was better, so, he just made us nervous. Well, on June 14th, 2007, a couple of days after he graduated, Daniel died. His fight was over. He told us, don't worry about him. He said he wanted to be buried with his diploma, and he wanted on that white suit that he had wore. That Mother's Day. Now, Daniel's mother and father is still alive and healthy. But see, Daniel made a lot of choices about not taking his medicine, not doing the checkups, that really caused things to go bad. But he told us not to worry. But I'm not worried for Daniel. He's in a better